Welcome to Shifting Gears, the show that catapults you back into the driver's seat of your life. Buckle up and prepare to check your mirrors as you shift from autopilot to the exhilarating journey of alignment with your host, Dana S. Diaz, the Power Shifter. Get ready to rev your engines and accelerate towards your true potential.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dana S. Diaz, and you're going to want to buckle up for this one. With Valentine's Day coming along on Saturday, I thought, what a perfect time to bring on somebody to talk about something we don't talk about, which is sex. I love this idea, and I'm so excited to introduce our guest, who is Gwyn Isaacs. She is a certified clinical sexologist. Yes, I said sexologist, an intimacy coach, and the host of the What Excites Us podcast. So, Gwyn, welcome, and please tell us, what does excite us? Let's just start there.
Dana, I am so delighted to be here and chat with you. This is going to be such a good time. And honestly, what excites us is completely different for everybody. And if I had one main message, it would be that whatever it is that does excite you, even if that is not actually having sex, that is all good. It is okay. There's no shame around whatever it is that turns you on or doesn't turn you on.
And I love that answer, because I think that you said the key word there for me, which is shame, because shame seems to just creep into so many aspects of lives because of just societal conditioning, expectations, all the things that tell us we should this, we can't that. And I think that no matter which way you put it, the bedroom, whatever you bring in there or whatever you take out of there, there's that aspect of we shouldn't, we should, we can, we can't. But certainly we want it to be a safe place for everybody to express whatever it is they want to express in there. So what would let's start with this, because I'm just honestly fascinated by just even your certification. What is an intimacy coach? What is a sexologist? And how do you become certified to be a sexologist? Let's go with that one.
Well, I took a course. It was a really in-depth, almost 2 years long, like master's level in coaching and different aspects of sexuality. We had to participate in a SAR, which is a sexual assessment. I don't remember what it stands for, but we had to look at things that might yuck somebody's yum so that we would be able to not go, whoa, when something appears.
Interesting.
Yeah. And also there was, words are not the greatest right now. When I work with somebody, I had to coach couples and a man and a woman, and have that all reviewed by my teachers and make sure that I was prepared to go out and work with people. So it was an involved thing.
Yeah, well, I imagine it would be, and you certainly can't have any shame going into something like that. You have to be very open-minded and open. I can't even imagine what you have seen, or maybe I can. I don't know. I bet there's some stories. We won't go into them now, but I'm curious to know, though, honestly, like what is your typical client, or who would typically come to you? Or I'm sure there's a variety, but what are they looking for answers with or help with when they come to you?
I would say that it all boils down to man, woman, trans person. Everybody wants to know whether it's like a piece of them physically or what it is that they're thinking about. Am I normal? Like 90% of people who are seeking help from sexual therapists or sexologists, clinical like coaches like me, are wondering if they are normal, if they are okay. And the answer is yes. You wouldn't exist if you were not. And that is, normal is not a word that we are trained to use. In fact, we're trained to avoid it. Like, are you average? Maybe not. Do you really want to be? I don't know. Some people do, and that's okay. I don't. And that's what led me to do this in the first place. I had to unwind my own shame of things that I desired. But yeah, it's a lot of that. And I will also say that there are people who are just hanging a shingle and saying that they're sex coaches. And I would be a little wary of that.
Okay. Well, I've never even heard of this. I mean, I imagine there's a coach for everything at this point, but you're the first sex coach I've ever met. And my husband is terrified, by the way, of what I might say today, because I was just about to say my husband and I don't need help in this area. We're very healthy and happy. but we're grateful for people like you that can help people that, I mean, it really kind of sat with me there for a second when you said that people just want it, and I agree with you about the word normal, but that they want some validation that, you know, that they're okay or healthy. But is that more psychological validation they're looking for, or is it more performance related, or can you expand on that?
So it's usually psychological or physical. So there are a lot of people who are really concerned about the way their body looks. Like I have coached women who were considering getting a labial surgery because they were so trying to compare themselves to what they see in porn, which is not real. It's entertainment, right? You don't learn to drive from the Fast and the Furious. You do not learn how to have sex from porn. It's entertainment. That being said, besides the am I normal, are my desires really, really weird? They're not. Even the ones that are outlying, as long as you don't want to harm anybody, including yourself, you're good to go. Other than that, I do teach some skills. I do help people communicate better with their intimate partners. I do help people reconnect intimacy, because intimacy is not just having sex. And sometimes we forget that, and building those muscles and learning how to communicate with each other in ways that are healthy and don't just shut each other down can be really difficult. And so I help people navigate all of those different aspects of their lives.
There is so much there, and I think anybody that's watching or listening just wants to hear more on all of that. So let's start with, because I think this is a really important piece, is the communication. And I mean, we're just going to say what it is today, but whether it's only with yourself or, you know, kind of giving yourself that permission, that kind of communication, or with a partner. But I think most people, well, I shouldn't say that. We're not going to generalize today. Let's also talk about with a partner, the communication piece, because I can just speak again for myself with my husband. You know me, I'm very direct. I am not shy about saying what I feel and asking for what I want. And, you know, my husband delivers, but it's a two-way street. And I think that that's where you can have a fulfilling, intimate life with somebody, is when you are getting that reciprocal energy from them, because it's not just a one-way street where you're just, forgive me for I feel like I've just got to cross myself. Forgive me, God, for saying the things I'm going to say. But sometimes you don't want to lay there like a starfish. You want to feel, you want to have that connection and that exchange with somebody, and not just feel used. So what would you suggest to people who need that communication piece? Please tell us more about that.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say that God made you the way you are, and to deny that is denying God. So let's just go there for a second.
Perfect.
Thank you. Pleasure is a part of being a human, and we would not exist without it. Secondly, about the starfish is also a thing that is, I know we will get to your
It's all I got. It's who I am.
No, it's great. It's totally great. Is also a thing that is getting a lot of flack in the world. But there is such an intense power in being able to receive, right? And it is so difficult for so many women. So mostly women, some men too. But to be able to do that not in a purely selfish way, but in a way that you're actually enjoying yourself, that is something to be praised and not getting all the flack that it is right now in the media. Okay, now your actual question. How do you communicate?
Fair. I will intervene though. I will say this to speak to that because you are 100% correct. I agree with you because there are times like, let's say when I am just not feeling the best or, maybe just had a bad day, stressed out, have a headache, whatever. But my husband, I want to make him happy. You want to give the person you love that part of you. And so sometimes I do it, but it's in a loving, way, but usually I like to participate and can usually get over whatever I've got. But yes, please share more with the communication.
Okay, let's put a pin on that too, because responsive desire is a real thing. Okay, communication. So a lot of times people come together very young or very early, and then as we do, we grow and change. And then we get stuck thinking that our partner wants us only in the way that we had before, right? In the way we were before. So that's one way that we have to learn how to get over ourselves, basically. Another thing that can happen a lot is that we have, again, shame about what it is that we desire. And so then we don't tell our partner, and then we're just sort of going through the motions, but we're not actually getting the satisfaction and the joy and the pleasure that we can get from physical pleasure, from intimacy, from orgasms. And eventually that will all break down and you'll start building resentment. And, it can go on for a really long time. I've also had people come to me and go, can you tell my partner to do this thing? No, I cannot. I will never, ever, ever, ever do that. But we can have a conversation where I can mediate and we can talk through the things. In any situation, there are some standard practices for difficult conversations, whether you're bringing up something shameful or something that you're just like, I don't even know how to approach this. And it involves not trying to do it when you are feeling so intensely. That's the first piece. Do not go blah, because that's not received, right? Nobody's going to hear that. Everybody just gets defensive because that's humans. So think about what it is that you actually want to say, and maybe even practice out loud in the shower while you're driving, whatever it is. And then when you're in a place where you feel like you've got it down and you're not going to just blurt something out and you're not going to feel defensive yourself, and you're in a place where you're actually comfortable with these words, then you can say to your partner, hey, I've got something I'd like to talk about. Would now be a good time, or, next Tuesday after dinner? And whatever it is, you let them decide. A lot of people I know, I would be like, what is it? I need to know right now. And that's okay. Don't do it until you're prepared to actually have the conversation. And then the really important piece is don't do it in bed. Don't do it in bed. Unless you're a couple who can have those deep and tender moments in bed already.
Yes. Because well, that's why I questioned it, because that's where my husband and that's where we get all philosophical and have the important talks, is laying in bed.
And that's totally valid. And a lot of people are like that, but a lot of people are not. So I would not start there. Yeah. Like when I'm talking to my teenager, we're not talking about intimacy, obviously, but we cannot be looking at each other. He needs to be driving, or we'll go sit on a park bench. And so for a lot of people, that staring at each other is one more level of, and so just being aware of that. So wherever it is that you already have your tender, sometimes vulnerable conversations, that's fine. But don't do it in bed if that isn't the place.
Makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And I think you brought up a good point. For any healthy relationship, is it does kind of make it more confrontational if it's not in the usual place, or, like you said with your son. My son's the same way. I think it's a mother-son dynamic. They don't want to feel confronted, sitting across the table. It's just I just like him casual, hey, or eating or driving, same thing. But I think it's the same way. Nobody likes to feel ganged up upon, especially when you're talking about something like this. And now, do you think that couples have an easier time communicating about their sexual life, about their intimate life versus maybe personal issues? Or what has been your experience in that? I'm just curious.
It's really all over the board. Everybody has some tenderness in some aspects of their lives, and it's really just different for everyone.
Yeah.
Now, I get the sexual things because that's why they're seeking me out.
Right.
And for a while, I was getting a lot of women who were coming out of purity culture and trying to reclaim who they are. But that's not a conversation with a partner necessarily, although sometimes it is as well. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because there are some people that even in relationships, they're very guarded and introverted, whereas a conversation that involved sex or intimacy or desires, things like that, might make them a little nervous and tense, and they might, but then I know people who are very quiet and introverted, but in there, they're a little different.
Absolutely.
So you never know.
100%. You cannot guess what somebody is like in the bedroom. And to speak to that, people who are uncomfortable even speaking about it, I had one client who came to me. She had just realized that she was really into women. She had a girlfriend, and she basically wanted me to teach her how to pleasure her, but she couldn't even say the word tit. So it took us 3 weeks to get to a place where she could use language where she could talk to her partner and ask her what she wanted. And it's okay. Like, everybody starts in a different place, and we just start with where you are. But from that place, we can continue and go on and have raging, amazing sexual lives and conversations about it.
And I think that speaks, I keep bringing it back to this, but I think it speaks again to that shame piece, because I want everybody to be clear, our audience, and I love this about you, Gwyn, we can't really make any generalizations about anybody in any aspect of life, but particularly with sexuality. But I think there is often, a sense of shame that society kind of, implies on puts on people that are delving or experiencing, more of their homosexual or bisexual or whatever sexual, desires. And so maybe that was something that was why she couldn't maybe talk so freely about, female anatomy, because she was a female. I don't know, just throwing it out there. I'm not the sexologist here, so shame thing. I think a lot of people can relate to this, though, because I always throw myself out there as an example just to save everyone else. But like for me, it was the body image. Now, people look at me and they see I'm small, and I understand, to you I'm small, but I grew up from 5, 6 years old. Everything, if I ate a piece of toast, it was criticized. I remember at 6 years old, my stepfather saying, "You keep eating like that, you're going to have the hips of a middle-aged woman. Nobody's going to want you." And every day of my life growing up. So I went into adulthood, and he even at one point told me that nobody's ever going to want me except for my body. But then he'd criticize my body. So I actually went into my first marriage, and even, I hate to say, with my husband now, there has been that shame over, now I'm a healthy weight. I was 93 pounds when he barely scraped me off the ground and practically saved me from my own self. But, now I'm 110 pounds. I'm healthy. That is very small still for a lot of people. I'm 5'3", but in my mind, like, I feel heavier. So then it was like, oh, we're not having sex. Is it my body? Did he not wait? Couldn't have been that he had a stressful day or has a lot on his mind. I immediately internalized it to me, and I had to do a lot of work kind of undoing that shame about my body, but also like detaching my physical body from my worthiness. But my worthiness was a whole other thing, obviously, from my growing up. But I feel like the shame, if you feel it outside the bedroom, you're going to bring it into the bedroom in some aspect. So talk to us a little bit about that and what you have seen with your clients in that regard.
First of all, I'm so sorry that you experienced that. I know it, and I'm like trying not to flip off your family in my mind.
Okay.
We
it's
get
been
the cards
said and
we
done,
get.
trust me.
Yeah, no, exactly. We get the cards we get. Our job is to learn how to play them.
Yeah.
That being said, it still sucks, and we can acknowledge
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, shame comes in all different shapes and flavors, from family or from billboards or from some nonsense that you heard when you were 5 years old. Like, I didn't think I could draw. I didn't think I was an artist because I couldn't draw. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm totally an artist. And I still can't draw a straight line. That's okay. There's nothing about me that's straight. There's nothing that will be straight. I still don't even go straight. I say I'm going forward. That's okay. And so again, it really starts with figuring out what it is. And most of the time, we don't even know what it is that implanted that piece. And so, not that I suggest that people go back and re-traumatize themselves by figuring it out, but sometimes having a thread to sort of pull on, to sort of be like, oh, where does this come from? And untangling the knot a little bit can help you figure out what you can do to reverse course, right? So I have a lot of occasionally my body shame still comes up too. I was on the opposite end of that. I look back at pictures of myself and I was like, yeah, I was a little chubby, but I was not the whaler that they were calling me in 7th grade. Like, oh, it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Everybody has a body. They're all different. So for me, what I did was stand in the mirror. There's a thing called the mirror exercise. There's a whole bunch of variations on it, but just be like, girl, you got hot legs. And like, start with that and move towards things that are easier and easier. And eventually, this happened literally a few years ago. I walked by, I was like, damn, that's hot. Like, decades. It took decades to get there. Now, the other shame, the internalized, am I a weirdo? Is there something really broken in me because of the things that I'm turned on by? Similarly, where does that come from? Do you really believe that? Like, are you judging other people when you see those things? And most of the time we are. And so that's a good place to notice and then reverse course. So always the first step is notice and not judge yourself for your feelings, because then adding that extra judgment adds a whole extra fun layer of shame that you then get to undo that too. And so the first step is just notice, be gentle with yourself, give yourself the grace you would give your bestie, and be kind. And then when you have an idea of what it is and you're noticing yourself doing it, then you can start to, and you're doing it you're noticing without shame, then you can start to be like, okay, what are steps that I can do to unwind this?
I like that. And I love how you keep saying reverse course, because it is the judgment. And I know for me, that was exactly the piece that turned things around for me and allowed me to accept myself, was not so much reversing course, but reversing the position. You know, like for me, when I was having, my own body image issues, I remember my husband saying to me one day, he's looking at me and I'm like, oh, I'm acting all weird and covering my little belly and whatever, because I wasn't used to it. I had always, I had been scrawny. And he's like, I don't care about that. He's like, I like your butt, but I don't care about your stomach. And so I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around that. But I'm like, but, I've been brainwashed to think my stomach's got to be flat and I have to have the, there's this idea of this. I mean, we can't help but see it at least those of us that grew up in the 70s and 80s, really, we saw these stick thin women, with a cigarette in their mouth, and it was glamorous, and you had to be skinny and don't eat and drink diet right and all this stuff. And now I actually am loving the younger generations now, because when my husband said that to me, it kind of changed my perspective, because first I looked at him, and I love this man with every fiber of my being, but he's 6'3", 6'4", I don't know. He's tall. He's over a foot taller than me, and he's double my size, at least 220. And I don't care. I don't care about it. I think his belly's cute and yummy and all the stuff. And like, I don't look at it. Like, I look at people for what's in their heart, not what their shell is. But then when I started looking at people I love very much, whether it's cousins or friends, and I'm like, I'm not even looking at their bodies, but God, I wish I had tits like that. Like, because I have none. And I'm like, I wish I had a booty. And some of them have a beautiful body, but like, I was like, oh, so I'm not the only one with a little belly. And so like, it started to help me shift my idea about myself, where I'm like, oh, that means I can eat. That means it's okay. And guess what? My husband still comes for it. So apparently it's okay. So I think that that's something. And just like you were talking about, when people have, maybe fetishes that they're, or desires that they think are strange, maybe they're not, because I've heard things that people have said. Just like even, my husband saying he likes my butt. There's guys that like butts, there's guys that like boobs, there's women. I'm an eyes person. I actually told one of my friends today, I'm like, you have blue eyes like my husband, they're crystal blue, and if I swung that way, I would be in love with you. she was laughing, and she might even be listening, because she said she might catch it. But that's the beautiful thing. I think that when we can learn to accept ourselves and not shame and judge ourselves, what a wonderful place that we can find that liberation, not just in the bedroom, but outside of the bedroom. And I feel like a lot of your work with people definitely impacts their lives outside of the bedroom. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when we feel good, we walk taller and have more oomph, and everything is better and easier.
Yes.
So, and when we have that like personal satisfaction of like, yeah, like just the afterglow, right? Like legit, you had sex, you're laying in bed, you're feeling amazing for 20 minutes. Like that carries forward. It's not just that 20 minutes. It's like it fills our whole being. And that's not just having orgasms, like just feeling good about who you are impacts everything you do.
That's fair. That's fair. It builds confidence. It builds self-esteem. So
that's what my talk is going to be about, actually.
Oh, I love that. And yes, we should mention Gwyn is a speaker in the 2026 Women Thrive Summit, which is a 5-day event, March 16th through 20th. What day is your talk? What day and time?
The 17th, and I believe it's at 11 Eastern time.
Okay, which is that Tuesday, but feel free. You can definitely, if you're following me, if you're one of my followers, go in my links, or if you follow Gwyn, go in her profile on any social media, or just go to Women Thrive Summit, Women Thrive Media. You will find links to get your free ticket. Definitely want to catch this. Tell us a little bit more about what your talk will be about, since we're on that subject.
It will be about that, about leaning into pleasure to access confidence and self-esteem. And so many women in particular, certainly some men too, but so many women in particular don't prioritize feeling good at all, to the point that they have lost it, lost their libido, or just like lost even the access to, more than just a laugh at a funny movie sort of feeling. And so I wrote an ebook, and the little mini free thing that I'm giving away as a part of Women Thrive is about that, about how to tap into just feeling good wherever you are. And if you have lost your desire completely, the first step is to not try and go hump a quarterback. Although, if that's your jam, go for it. But to actually just like, what does my body tell me? What am I missing? Where, if I breathe, where do I feel it? If I tune into what it is that I'm thinking, what am I saying to myself? What is the self-talk? And learning how to get beyond the negative self-talk that so many of us have, feel our feelings, and then use that to feel good, and then use that to step into your confidence.
That all makes perfect sense. And I feel like, again, this just goes, it just bleeds into every aspect of your life. It's not, but what an amazing thing if you can have that feel good and that self-esteem and that self-confidence that you can then take into the bedroom, and whether it's with yourself or with somebody else, and indulge yourself in that pleasure. And getting back on that subject, I have all kinds of curiosities. What do you think prevents people, other than shame and other than maybe a lack of confidence? What other factors play into how people show up or don't show up in intimate situations?
Fear and internalizing a lot of that societal pressure. I know so many, again, women, I don't know any men, who have never examined themselves, don't know how to masturbate in a way that they actually enjoy. I know so many women who didn't even conceive of masturbation until they were in their 20s and still struggle with it. So if you don't know what it is that you like, how can you tell somebody else what you like?
Mm-hmm.
There's that.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I know with my husband, I just told him, here you go, let me help you out. And you have to know, because if you don't, it's like when we talk about driving, you were talking about driving before, and I like those analogies. How are you going to teach somebody to drive if you don't know how to drive? It's a simple thing.
Exactly. And so if you don't think that that's okay, that's going to be a major thing. I mean, that is also shame, but it's also fear and like not really feeling comfortable with who you are as a being. There's a lot of, there's folks who have ADHD have a thing called rejection sensitive dysphoria. And so we can turn anything negative, like how you were saying, he didn't want to have sex because of my belly. No, he's not thinking about you at all. He's thinking about the fact that he's exhausted, or, dinner isn't sitting right in his stomach and the idea of thrusting is uncomfortable, like whatever it is. Yeah. But because we tend to internalize everything, whether or not you have RSD is just a nice, useful term. It's so easy to just shut it all down super quick without examining, what's going on, what is happening. And then I also want to come back to, there's this thing called responsive desire, right? So men tend to have, what's the automatic desire? Like they see something, they're like, boing, let's go. And that's so cool. I wish I was like that. I'm not like that. Women, for the most part, tend to be a responsive nature. So we have to have some physical touch, like massages or just, stroking your hair, whatever it is that excites you. And sometimes even start getting deeper and deeper into it before we start feeling turned on. And so if you're not automatically getting turned on, give it a few minutes. That's okay. That's normal. That's part of biology. That's just the way that we're built. And then be able to communicate if you're like, yeah, no, this is still not working. And have your partner be able to hear, no, this is still not working. Because that's another big piece of it. If you don't trust who you're with, then you're not going to be able to really relax when you even want to relax, because you've built up these barriers.
Yes. And I have unfortunately been in those situations as that person that doesn't feel safe. But I was also going to say that it is something that, when you are in a healthier situation, not an unsafe one, but when you can use those opportunities when things are not happening as you wish they would, to explore, and invite the other person to either have that conversation or not even have a full conversation, but just say, hey, there's a lot of other things we can do to feel intimate and to be close and to share this experience that don't involve that particular thing or that particular appendage or whatever it is, that, we can still have fun, as my husband says. He just likes to have fun and still enjoy that experience with that person. Because I think a lot of what people miss is that it is an energy exchange, and it's not just actual intercourse that needs to happen to have that exchange of energy and to have those indulgences and desires being met and all the stuff that we would have fall under pleasure, so to speak. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, when we're younger, we can all orgasm super quickly. Not all, many of us, most of us, men for sure. But and so then orgasm becomes the goal. And for a lot of us, somewhere in our 40s, we realize, oh, wait, there's a whole lot more going on. It would be so nice if we learned that a lot sooner. That is a thing. Let's take orgasm as the goal off the table. That would be great.
Because that's amazing. Yeah.
So many intimate things that you can do to build the connection, to feel solid, to just really love one another without it being genital based, without it being just about getting off.
Right? Oh, absolutely. And I think that you put it exactly right, though. I think when you're young, that is you calling it a goal is like everything right there, because it is that perspective. When you're young, it is what it is. It's just an action or a quick act, as it's usually the case, and it's done, and that's that. But I agree, when you're actually in a healthy, dynamic with somebody where you're sharing, it's an experience. It's not just this sole act with that goal that you are sharing in this. It's for pleasure. You're indulging in each other, loving on each other, experiencing each other. And it's a beautiful thing. So let's come back to the safety thing, though, because I think this is important for people. I think we've all heard of, having that safe word. As women, particularly, we want to be in those safe relationships. But I've got to say this, because I know this is on a women's network, but as the mother of a son, and he's my only child, the thing that terrified me most when he became a teenager was that he would be in a situation where something was mistaken, miscommunicated, and the tragedies that can result from something like that. It's a terrifying thing when you're a mother of a son and your son's a good boy, although you never know what they're going to do anyway. But I noticed that even with my husband, because I had come out of a 25-year abusive relationship, and sexual abuse was part of that experience. I don't like to use the R word, and I'm trying not to get emotional, but whether you're married or not, somebody can violate you. And so my husband was very careful, nurturing me in that aspect, asking, do I have permission? Is this okay? And being very gentle and slow about things. We're past that now. We've been married almost 5 years, but it's something that was so, like, that right there made me feel safe. I knew I could trust him not to do what had been done to me before. So tell me about some of the experiences you've had and the advice that you give people in situations like that.
Enthusiastic consent is fantastic. It's really key. And it's one of those things that I am so grateful for the younger generation, right? They've learned this. Like I actually taught this to a bunch of middle schoolers at one point, and they're carrying it and they believe it. And I've heard some backlash, although I haven't heard it a whole lot recently, but like, that's not sexy. If I have to ask to kiss you, that's nonsense. It is. You can absolutely, you love it when I kiss you like this, don't you, baby? And if the person says no, then that's your, that's it. Like, no,
My
but
God, I
like,
almost kissed you when you said that. I just wanted
right?
to.
Like it can
I
be,
think it's hot. I think
it's
honestly,
so
it to me, having come from out of that, it was a turn on for me for somebody to be like, I care about you so much that I want to make sure that what I'm doing is okay with you. Like, hell yeah, can you do it some more? Let's go. Like,
right. It is super sexy. And a lot of people are violated in relationships.
mm,
And that's a really sticky, difficult place to be. And for those people, please seek help. Whatever help that you can start with and be comfortable with. And it might be a therapist, it might be, just starting with your sister, like whatever it is, talk to somebody if that is something that happens, because that's really not okay. Let's just be really
yeah,
clear.
yeah,
Really not okay. Um, However, going back to like the more fun side,
mhm,
consent culture comes from kinksters. And talk about a group of people who, like, orgasm is almost, it's not, they're not together. Like, you can go to a kinky play party and never explore genitals at all and still have the most amazing time ever. And all of that is very consent based. And if it's not, you need to find a different play partner, because that's
yeah,
not okay either. But like, it's all discussed beforehand. What do you like about this? What do you like about that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And you're really clear about what is on and what is off the table. And
mm,
so, um, yeah, that if we
yeah,
could bring that to every relationship, and then with women, I'd like to remind us that we are extremely variable creatures. If you were born with a uterus, you might want something for 5 seconds, and the 6th second, do not ever do that again. And then a minute later, you're like, wait, why did you stop that? Biology. Biology can be such a bitch. It's okay.
so true. I'll be honest with you. Been there.
I don't know any woman who hasn't. Um, they must exist, because bell curves are a thing, and
Yeah.
most of us are up here, but there is always some over here. But I've never met them. And the key in that regard is that you can also withdraw consent, and you can change your mind, and you can shift what you're like. Yeah, I thought I wanted a massage, but actually I really only want you to rub my feet, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Being able to have those conversations
100%.
later, like, and being able to be like, okay, let's go to bed, and we'll process tomorrow if there was some miscommunications. That's also really key. But
And
being
it
able
is,
to
yeah,
talk
go ahead.
about sex, just like, I've had couples come to me like, we don't talk about sex. Well, then how are you having it? Like, what?
Yeah.
How do you know? Like, they might hate it when you touch their nipples. I don't know,
Well, that's exactly it though. And that's what I was going to say is it comes back. I feel like everything sort of comes back to that communication piece. And, we all are who we are. I'm as direct as they come. So, when my husband and I started that intimate relationship, I was like, here's the deal. Okay, okay, okay. Not okay, not okay. This just doesn't work on me. This is my easy button. I like gave him the rundown and like, okay, let's go. But he's still, I mean, even to this day, if he's, and again, I think this is when you are in a relationship where you are, having that reciprocal exchange. He can see either by the expression on my face or whatever, he'll ask, is this still okay? Am I hurting you? Am I, or he'll still ask for that consent and that permission. And I think that's part of, again, goes back to communicating while you're in the act, communicate before the act, communicate after if you have to, but never, ever, ever. I think the number one rule for me is never, ever, ever proceed with doing anything that is not, for whatever reason, whether it is a violation of a boundary, whether it is just not feeling good anymore, because I mean, we have to be careful, there's UTIs and all kinds of random things that can happen with our private parts that we, they can be exacerbated, by the pain by sex, and we don't want to go there. But I think it's just about communicating and just continually having that communication happen before, after, and during.
Yeah, absolutely. And desires fluctuate over time, right? Like long times, right? So you might find yourself really into this one thing in well into your 40s or 50s, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't really like that anymore. Let's not do that for a while, and maybe I will later, and maybe I won't. And it's the same with what your interests are over time can change, and that's okay too. Like, all of that is fine. The biggest piece is that whatever it is really okay. And the first like meme that I made when I came out, when I was like, I'm professional now, 2017, was maybe it wasn't the first. It was like right in that very beginning. Was 90% of sexual problems can be handled with more communication or more lube, or both.
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts to have more of anything. Just saying. But I love that. And, what I'm hearing, I think, throughout this whole conversation is that we have to remember, not just as women, I'm talking to men, I'm talking to, I don't even like saying men and women anymore. Like, you're a human. As people, we need to learn to honor ourselves more and be true to who we are. Because if you've got a foot fetish, that's fantastic. Just make sure to communicate that, because if I'm your girl, my toenails are always going to be painted. They're going to be smooth and pretty. You will give that back to your partner. If your partner has a thing for this, that, whatever, you want to be attractive to them. You want them to experience as much pleasure as you do. So it's just having that communication, but always, always, always being true to who you are, what you want, allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to have those indulgences and to experience those things without that shame.
Absolutely. And then the cherry on top of that really beautiful word Sunday.
Unintended.
Usually. Is that what we fantasize about does not necessarily mean that we want to do that. Right? So
yeah.
75% of people who identify as women have kidnapping or ravishment fantasies. I don't know a single person who actually wants that in real life.
No, not the kidnapping part. I don't know.
Right. But we could, like, if we want it so much that we're able to communicate that, then maybe we could play with that a little bit. Maybe there are aspects of it that are fun to bring into our playtime. But yeah, nobody wants to be kidnapped off the street by somebody they don't know and thrown in the back of a car. Although I will say I have known people who have done that for pretend. And like, that's great. Okay. That's rock on for you. Like, whippy. But yeah, you plan all that out. So like, if you find yourself like, oh no, I'm a horrible person, I'm fantasizing about this thing. No, you're not. Fantasies are brain candy. They're just the way that our brains tell stories. And that's just a part of being human.
I love that. I love the way you said that. It's just candy for our brain because let's be real, even outside of the bedroom, everybody has daydreams or little fantasies. You just are kind of entertaining yourself and whatever little thing tickles you inside. But this whole conversation is just amazing. But I know we only have 10 more minutes here, and I want to make sure we cover everything that's important to you. What would you say is the one thing nobody ever asks you about that just really you think should be brought to the forefront in this realm?
One thing that nobody ever asks me about. I don't know that I have that, because everybody asks me all sorts of random things all the time.
How about this then? What don't we talk about enough, or what are people most fearful of bringing up in this topic?
Yeah, do they like me? Am I broken? Is there something wrong with me? Am I a weirdo? It really all goes back to, am I normal? Like that's never what somebody asks. Nobody ever says, am I normal? They
Fair.
say, I'm into this thing. What's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. I want to try this, but my partner can't do it. How do I get them to do it? That's the one thing that I wish people would stop asking. Talk to your partner. But really, it just all boils down to, it's okay to like what you like. Desire is there for a reason. It's a compass, not something to get shut down. Pleasure is good for you. When you can accept that pleasure is good for you and start enjoying yourself instead of shaming yourself or putting yourself down or whatever it is that happens because you're feeling good, when you can lean into it. Like, I mean, even if it's like, I ate a whole pint of ice cream, like, okay, it happens. There's no reason to get negative about it. Just roll with it. You'll feel it tomorrow. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
And like, just lean into the pleasure of whatever it is. Communicate more with your partners and enjoy what you enjoy.
And I think that's just a motto for life. I think, again, it goes back to just living authentically, not being ashamed of who you are and just anything about yourself, because I just feel like that's where, we've all gone wrong at some point in our lives. And then you spend decades trying to unmuck it and undo it. And it's just so much easier if you just embrace it from the get-go. And I think that, you brought this up multiple times, that this is really a concern for a lot of people. And I think that, it goes to, I always turn into like the mom, because my husband has 2 adult sons and I have an adult son. And my thing is, it's okay to have fun until you find the one, assuming there is a one, but not everyone has to be, but have fun. It's okay. And I think let's normalize that it's okay for women to have fun if that's what they choose to do, and not just pat guys on the back for, their sexual prowess. That a girl who enjoys, having multiple partners or being single and living her life is not all these labels we want to put on her. I get annoyed when I hear she's a whore, she's a this, she's a trap. And why are we calling it the walk of shame for a girl, but a guy gets to go high five his friends? Like, we just have to not do that anymore. Like, just be you, have fun till you find the one, and my other thing is, you like what you like. And if somebody that you're with doesn't, if it's just not vibing, maybe you just aren't sexually compatible, and that's okay too. Doesn't mean you can't be together, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't, should be either, because there are people, I think, that are compatible with you, and you definitely can feel that vibe when you meet somebody, whether you are having a sexual relationship or even just in a platonic, friend, relationship. I think we just have to go back to honoring ourselves. So, is there anything else you want to add to that, expand on?
Whatever it is, whatever style of loving you're into, whatever style of sexuality you're into, it's really okay as long as you're not harming anyone. And so, and again, that goes back to like, if you don't find yourself sexually attracted to anybody, that's okay too. If you find yourself sexually interested in lots of people, as long as you're communicating and are honest with everybody, that's okay too. If you're like, no way, I'm only going to be with this one person for the rest of my life, great. Whatever it is that actually works for you, be honest with yourself, be honest with your partners, and enjoy it.
I love that. And it just makes life easier when you don't put all these extra stressors on you and all these extra pressures. So, of course, everybody is going to want to know where this book is that you have out. Tell us the name of the book, where we can find it, and more about that.
Permission to Want Again. It's an ebook, and it is easiest gone to through my podcast website, which is whatexcitesus.com. my other, they're connected. It's Earthly Desire, but everybody spells it desires and then they can't get there. So whatexcitesus.com is my podcast. I talk to other professionals. I talk to other people who just want to share their sex lives so that everybody can know that they are okay and find themselves in somebody else's expressions. And then that is also how you find me for coaching and everything. So whatexcitesus.com is probably the easiest.
I love it. Whatexcitesus.com. And I believe we will be in the near future collaborating again on your podcast, What Excites Us, even though I've already given away my happy, healthy sex life here, but I always have more. There's always more. But if you do want more of Gwyn, please, please, please go follow her on socials. Where do you hang out most? Instagram, Facebook?
Honestly, my personal Facebook is where I hang out the most.
Okay.
But TikTok, Instagram, Sex Fairy Gwyn is the easiest way to find me there.
Sex Fairy Gwyn, you heard it from the experts. So thank you, Gwyn, for being here. And remember to please, please, please go register for the 2026 Women Thrive Summit, where Gwyn will be speaking on Tuesday, March 17th. And while you're there, sign up for my talk, which is on Friday, March 20th. But definitely make sure to put Gwyn's talk on your calendar, because if anything that you heard in this conversation resonated or you want to know more about it, you will be able to ask those questions live at her summit talk in the chat. So we want to see you there. She will love to see familiar faces and people who are already familiar with her work. And if you would like some expert advice, she's your go-to. You heard it straight from her, and she's there for you and whatever your needs are in the intimacy department. So thank you all for watching. Please, please, please like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Go follow us on socials. We will see you next time, where I will be following up on this episode, this conversation with Gwyn, with some shop talk on sexual shame to sovereignty. We'll see you then.
Thanks for tuning into Shifting Gears, where transformation isn't just talk, it's a conscious shift into the best and happiest version of you. Until next time, enjoy the open road. And if today's episode inspired you, be sure to like, share, and follow so you never miss what's coming next.